I've been delivering food for a while now. It's a straightforward job and it helps me get by. Most nights are the same. Pick up, drop off, repeat. But one night I got an order that I'll never forget. It was close to midnight and I was exhausted. One last delivery, then home. The address was way outside town, down some quiet, dark roads. My GPS kept glitching like it didn't want me to go there. When I finally pulled up, I felt uneasy. The house was old, huge, and falling apart. The yard was overgrown, the paint was peeling, and the windows were so dark they looked empty. As I grabbed the food and walked to the door, I saw something that made me stop. A little girl, standing in the upstairs window. She looked about 8 or 9, with pale skin and long dark hair. She wore a white dress and didn't move, just stared at me. Then slowly she raised her hand and waved. It wasn't a normal wave, not friendly, not playful. It was slow, almost like she was expecting me. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again. I could hear soft footsteps inside, moving carefully across the floor. The porch light flickered. Finally, the door creaked open. A tired-looking woman stood there. Her eyes were dull, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Yes?" she asked. Delivery for Sarah?" I said, holding up the bag. She nodded, then frowned. "That's me." I hesitated. "Oh, I saw your daughter in the window. The woman's face changed instantly. Her eyes went wide and she took a step back. "What did you just say?" she whispered. I felt a chill crawl up my back. "Your daughter," I repeated, pointing up at the window. She waved at me. Her hands started shaking. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I don't have a daughter." I felt frozen. Slowly, I turned my head back to the window. She was still there, but now she wasn't waving. She was smiling, her mouth stretched too wide, her dark eyes locked onto mine. The woman grabbed the bag from my hands and slammed the door shut. I stood there, my pulse pounding in my ears. Then I heard it, a giggle, software close, right behind me. I spun around, heart racing. But the porch was empty. The street was still. I ran to my car, fumbling with my keys. My hands were shaking so badly it took me 3 tries to start the engine. As I sped away, I glanced in my rearview mirror. She was standing at the end of the driveway, still smiling, still waving. I went straight home, locked my doors, and sat there for a long time trying to calm down. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I looked up the address. That house had been abandoned for years. The last owner, a woman named Sarah, and her 8-year-old daughter had died there. She fell from the upstairs window. Now, every time I'm out late, I can't help but check the windows, like she's still there. I was working the late shift at KFC, driving deliveries like usual. It was almost midnight when an order popped up, 1 large bucket of extra crispy, large fries, and a Coke. Nothing weird about it, except the drop-off location. Pinewood Motel, room 204. I looked puzzled. That place had been shut down for years. I remembered driving past it a couple of times, just an old, run-down building on the edge of town. Windows boarded up, parking lot cracked with weeds pushing through. Nobody stayed there anymore. I figured maybe someone bought the place, was fixing it up. Maybe it was a security guard or a worker who ordered. I had no reason to refuse. So, I packed the food, got in my car, and started the drive. The streets were empty. Too empty. The further I got, the more I noticed how dead everything felt. No cars, no people, just dark, silent buildings under the yellow glow of streetlights. When I got to the Pinewood Motel, I felt uneasy. The parking lot was empty, just a couple of broken-down cars that probably hadn't moved in years. The neon motel sign flickered weakly. Only half the letters worked. I grabbed the food, stepped out, and walked toward room 204. The place smelled old, stale, like old wood and dust. The only sound was the hum of a distant street lamp, buzzing like it was ready to die. I knocked 3 times. Silence. Then, the door creaked open. A man stood there, maybe mid-40s, dressed in a plain white t-shirt and jeans. His skin looked pale, like he hadn't seen the sun in years. His eyes looked deep and lifeless. But the weirdest part, he was smiling, a wide, unsettling grin. "You're fast," he said. His voice was low, scratchy. I swallowed. Yeah. Here's your food." I held out the bag, but he didn't take it. He just stared at me for a moment. Then, he reached out, fingers brushing the edge of the bag. And he was gone. Vanished. I blinked. My hands were still out, holding the food. The door was wide open, but the room was empty. I took a shaky step forward. The air inside was freezing. The walls were covered in old, peeling wallpaper. A dusty lamp sat in the corner, untouched. And on the nightstand, there was a rotted KFC bag. I stepped back, my heart racing. I turned and ran straight to my car, jumped in, and sped off. Back at the KFC store, I told my manager what happened. He went pale. "That motel's been closed for 6 years," he said slowly. "After the murder." A chill ran through me. A guy was found in room 204, a delivery driver just like you. Someone ordered food, and when he got there, they found him a week later. Throat slit. I stared at him. A shiver ran down my back. "They never found the killer," he added. "And weirdest part? There was a fresh KFC order sitting on the nightstand, completely untouched." I didn't sleep that night, didn't drive deliveries for a long time after that, but sometimes, late at night, I still get that same order popping up on my app. A bucket of extra crispy, large fries, and a Coke. I never accept it, and I never will. Back when I was in college, I worked as a delivery driver to make extra cash. It wasn't exciting, but it paid the bills. Most of my shifts were at night, and after a while, I got used to the empty streets, the quiet neighborhoods, and the occasional weird customer. But one night, I got an order that still haunts me to this day. It was almost midnight when the order came in. Just a regular meal, nothing strange. The address was in a quiet neighborhood I had never been to before, but it wasn't far. I grabbed the food, hopped in my car, and started driving. The moment I turned onto the street, something felt off. The streetlights were dim, flickering every few seconds. Most of the houses were dark, their windows like empty eyes watching me. A strange chill ran down my spine, but I shook it off. Then, as I drove toward the end of the street, I saw her, a woman standing beneath the last streetlight. She was still, too still. Her face was shadowed, her arms hanging limply at her sides. For a second, I thought she was staring directly at me. I blinked, and she was gone. Just my imagination, I told myself. Probably just some lady waiting for a ride or something. I grabbed my phone to check the house number and walked up to the first house listed. But just as I was about to knock, my phone screen flickered. The location changed. Now it pointed to a house 2 doors down. Weird. I was sure I had the right place. I walked to the next house, food in hand. Just as I reached the porch, my phone buzzed again. The location changed again. Now it pointed to the last house on the street, the one under the flickering streetlight. A wave of unease crept over me, but I had a job to do. The food had to be delivered. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself forward. Each step felt heavier, like the air itself was pushing against me. By the time I reached the house, I noticed something strange. The porch light was on, but the inside was completely dark. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Silence. Just as I was about to turn around, the door creaked open on its own. The first thing I noticed was the faint glow of a TV playing static. The second thing I noticed was her. A woman sat in an old wooden chair. She didn't move, just sat there. Her long dark hair was tangled and lifeless, like she hadn't moved in days. Her pale hands rested on her lap, stiff and unmoving. A cold, sick feeling twisted in my gut. Something about her felt wrong, like she wasn't real. Your order," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't move, didn't even flinch. Then slowly she lifted one hand and pointed at a small table near the door. Every instinct in me screamed, "Run!" But I couldn't just leave the food on the floor and take off. I hesitated, then took a shaky step inside, just enough to set the bag down. As soon as I placed it on the table, the front door slammed shut behind me. My stomach dropped. I spun around, heart hammering, and saw her standing up. But something about the way she moved, slow, jerky, like her body wasn't used to motion, made my blood run cold. I stopped breathing, and then I saw her face. Her mouth was wrong. It stretched too wide, the skin around it torn and cracked like it had been forced open. And her eyes, they weren't eyes at all, just empty dark holes. A deep, horrible sound came from her throat. Not a scream, not a growl, something worse. I ran. I lunged at the door, fumbling with the lock. My fingers shook so badly I could barely turn the handle. I yanked the door open and sprinted out of the house, my breath ragged and shallow. I didn't stop, didn't look back. Then, bam, I crashed into someone. We both hit the pavement hard. I scrambled to my feet, chest heaving, ready to keep running, until I realized I had slammed into a man. "What the hell, man?" he groaned, rubbing his head. I could barely speak. I just pointed at the house. That woman," I gasped. She was inside. His face changed. He turned slowly toward the house. And then, in a quiet, shaky voice, he asked me, "You went inside?" I froze, trying to breathe. His face went pale. "Nobody goes near that house," he said quietly. "Not after midnight." He hesitated, then stepped back. "That house, it's been abandoned for years." A chill ran through me. I turned to look at the house. The door was shut. The porch was empty, like nothing had ever happened. I didn't say another word. I just ran, out of the neighborhood, back to my car, back to safety. And after that night, I never took another midnight delivery again. Even now, years later, I still wonder, if I had stayed a second longer, what would have happened to me?